Well, hello and welcome to the 200th episode of the Love Machine podcast. 200 episodes. Who can believe that? When I first started, two episodes was a dream for me. So thank you so much to everyone that I've had listening to the podcast, everyone that supported it, everyone that's come on and they've guested with me. I've made some wonderful new friends and new contacts by doing this, and so many new clients around the world. So today, to celebrate my 200th episode, I thought, what can I do that's really special? Other than doing a video podcast, it's a very, very brave thing for me to do, of course. I've got the very first guest I ever had, a welcome return for the fantastic Jade Birkin. Jade is coming back today out of retirement, one day only, just for me. She's doing this as a massive favor, and I really appreciate it because Jade does not work in the same way she used to. She doesn't work in the dating industry, isn't currently dating much as far as I know. And I thought, you know what? I have to get her back today to celebrate the 200 episodes and to catch up. We haven't really spoken for a while. So, Jade, how are you doing?
Hi, James. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to chat again, and I couldn't possibly say no to you after all the help you gave me for my career in the dating industry. So glad to be back
Oh,
and chat.
bless, bless. Thank you so much for that. You know, I can't believe that we're here on 200 episodes. You were on my 50th. You've done 3 or 4 episodes with me. 50th episode. Where does the time go? 200
I
episodes.
I know it's crazy because on the 50th, I was just sort of talking about, coming out of lockdown and starting to date again, and when we still had restrictions and
I remember that because what I was doing recently, for those that don't know, I was putting all my previous podcasts onto YouTube as obviously just audio only. And I came across some of your episodes we did together. I thought I really missed talking to you and doing this, but it was right. It was going back to the first time when you did one of the very first Zoom dating virtual dates for several hours and you were drinking about 3 bottles of wine during that time and
yeah.
you got ghosted by the end of it. Is that what happened? Is it?
Yeah, yeah. And then when it came for me to write a blog about it, he actually then got back in touch the day before I was about to release this
Yeah.
blog. So I had to be like, oh, nice to chat again. Just let you know I've written something. And then the next day it went out, it went viral. And then I ended up on BBC Radio and things because of you and people asking about it and things. So and then
Amazing.
we did try and date again. So I did kind of follow up that blog.
Yeah.
And then meeting in person just felt so awkward after.
No, well, it would do, but that was quite a few years ago now. So,
Yes.
but now you were telling me that you've retired from the dating scene. You don't host the singles events. You don't do your blog so much anymore. But so what's happening? Are you currently still single, and are you dating at all?
I am still single. So about 2 years ago, I started the job that I'm in now for a charity, and we were doing a sort of workshop and we were talking about identities. And the identity that came up for me was professional single. And everyone was laughing. I was like, no, but I am. I am literally a professional single. And then I
Mm.
was like, oh my God, I am always going to have this identity if I don't stop because people
Yeah.
don't want to date me with the kind of job I do. And I was really loving the work I was doing for the charity. So I felt like
Mm.
it was right to put my energy there.
Yeah.
And then quite a few months went by and I went, wow, I'm now just single and not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Then
Well,
I did meet someone that hasn't worked out, but it's all fine.
it's all fine. Well, today's episode is about embracing being single.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Because the whole theme of my podcast is called The Love Machine. It's not just about loving relationships or loving a person, it's loving yourself and loving your life. So, embracing being single, Jade. Are you embracing being single?
Yes, so much so. I am so comfortable and happy being single. It really is going to take someone very, very special to
Yeah.
come into this life. But I think he's out there. I am still that optimistic.
Yeah, so am
And
I. You know what's going to happen now, don't you? This podcast is going to go out, and you're going to be bombarded with loads of guys trying to find you to try and take you out. So who knows? But you know what? Let's talk about being single because being
yeah.
single that doesn't define you. It's not really a label I think anyone should have. Being single, being in a couple, it's just a thing that happens.
Mhm.
So you are currently living your best life. You had a holiday. You said to me before that you went on your own, didn't you?
Yeah, at the end of the summer last year, I had booked this after I had broken up from the relationship I actually just mentioned there. And I had always planned on doing a city break by myself, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I really need a beach. But then I thought, oh, I like my own company, but 7 days on a beach might be a bit much. I think I could bore myself.
Okay.
So I just kind of went on and had a look, and I found a resort which had that mix of like history and museums, but there was loads of different beaches, and things. So I kind of had that best of both. So I thought, oh,
Hmm.
that might be all right, and I might make friends when I'm there. Um, so I was very like excited, but also a bit like, oh, what am I doing? And I had the best week of my life. I'm not gonna lie, I had the best time. I actually didn't really speak to anyone apart from like there was two bars that were close by to my hotel, and they were the ones that I would go to for a bit of dinner and a glass of wine. So I
Yeah.
got to know the staff there. And two guys did ask me out, and I was like, I'm not Shirley Valentine. I'm too young for that. I'm not here today. So I met them. But apart from that, I was really happy exploring the history and going on a little adventure by myself.
That's what life's about, though, isn't it? Having little adventures as much as you can. And it's such an important thing to do, whether you're with somebody or not. I would have personally gone all inclusive, even though I don't drink very much nowadays. I think I like to get my money's worth, and I enjoyed a few cocktails on the beach at the same time. But you explored the place. You went traveling around, did you?
Yeah, so where I was actually in Kos, so there's loads of like day trips you could do. You could even go to
Mm.
Turkey for the day, but I actually ran out of time. I
Yeah.
think the only sort of there was two occasions where I was a bit like, what am I doing? So there was this really beautiful restaurant right on the beach, and I
Wow.
love seafood.
Mm.
So I went, and it was kind of at sunset time, and I was sitting, and it was so romantic. And at that point, I did go, this is the most romantic place I've ever been to in my life. What am I
Yeah.
doing? But there was actually a family of cats, and I was sitting playing with the cats. And then I looked up, and all the couples weren't talking to each other. They were just watching me play with the cat. Um, but that was lovely. And then I ended up booking like a boat trip. So you did like different islands in the one day, and you got some lunch. And once the boat started leaving the harbour, I was a bit like, what am I doing? I hate the sea. This feels really weird being by myself. But it was actually fine. And at the first stop, you got off and you went and did a sponge factory tour. And
Okay. Yeah.
then you went for lunch, and I did meet a young couple from the Liverpool area. So I sat and I had my lunch with them, and if I'd wanted to go and sit up in the boat with them, things I could have done, but I was actually all right on my own. So yeah, it was a good balance. I had conversation enough.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been to Kos as well a few times, and I've been to a sponge factory when I'm over there. But what I was thinking about two things. I went on a boat trip, a midnight boat trip, with my wife, probably my girlfriend at the time. She might have been rather than my wife, and it was like moonlight. And you go across a little boat trip, and you see all the stars, and you drink champagne on there. It was lovely. But when I saw your video that you sent to me about your little trip, it was the cats that reminded me of being there. There's cats everywhere, stray cats, aren't there?
Yeah, and I am such a cat lady anyway. I mean, I literally
Yeah,
have a blog about cat lady and ends in the stereotype of being that sad, lonely person that has cats. Like, that's not the
yeah.
case. So my Instagram stories were just different cats every day that were out there, but people were loving it. I actually got when I had booked the holiday, and I had shared that I was going on my solo holiday, I have never had so many women. I mean, considering I used to write about dating and have podcasts about dating, I've never had so many people message me to say how much they would love to be able to do that, and they couldn't wait to follow my journey, and how brave they found it, but really inspiring. So that was really, it was mainly women, a few guys as well, and then maybe
Mm.
another couple of people. It was actually mainly guys that said, I've done this before, it's brilliant. Whereas I think
Yeah.
women just feel a bit like, oh, and I think people always think, oh, everyone's going to look at me. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're
No,
walking to the shop by yourself or sitting on the beach by yourself. No one bats an eyelid. It's
they
fine.
don't. People think about that all the time. They say, well, I can't go for lunch on my own. I can't go and treat myself because everyone's going to watch me. No one
Yeah.
cares. No one cares. It's like everyone's going around taking photographs of everyone all day long now, Instagram, social media. So if you take pictures of yourself, no one's going to care less. They've got their own lives to lead. They're not going to remember you 10 minutes later. So I think people do often go on solo holidays now. There are, in fact, holiday companies that cater for solos only. And they're called solos holidays, I think they're called.
Yeah, there is companies like that,
Yeah.
which I think are great for people who maybe aren't quite as confident and as used to it as maybe I am.
Yeah.
And somebody had said to me, like, "Oh, are you going on one of those like solo holidays for single people?" And I was like, "No,
Mm.
I don't want to talk to other single people about being single. I know what being single is like. I'm fine."
Yeah.
Um, and I think, when I was by the pool and stuff, if I wasn't reading, I had a podcast on, so it's kind of like a conversation. I don't know, I just didn't really feel alone.
It's funny when I go on a holiday, the last thing I want to do is talk to anybody else. That's it. Talk to my family, talk to my friends if they're there, but anybody else, I'm not in the mood for making friends on holiday. I think I'm at that
Yeah.
age now, but I want to go out and just enjoy myself and relax and chill out.
To
But
be
yeah.
to be fair, I thought I would want to make friends more than what I did, and it was actually not
Mhm.
until my very last night I went to both the bars because I wanted to go and say bye to the staff and things.
Mhm.
And at the first place I was at, there was a lovely older couple trying to
Yeah.
take a selfie together. And
Mm.
they reminded me of my grandparents who were really sweet. So I was like, oh, I'll take a photo. And then she heard my accent. So she was asking where I was from, and she was from Germany. So we ended up speaking for quite a while. Which then got onto the topic of drugs because that's like something that the charity I work for deal with. So she was asking what it's like in Scotland. So I was like talking about that. Anyway, and then I left, I went to the other bar and it was sort of like these long tables. So there was so many people around you and live
Yeah.
music. It was brilliant. And there was a family beside me and one of the women leaned over and she was like, oh, hi, we're from Turkey. And there was like a teenage boy. She was like, could you ask him a couple of questions just so that he can practice his English? And I was like,
Oh.
yeah, okay. So we ended up speaking for ages and they were asking, all about Scotland and England and all that kind of thing. And I now have her on Instagram.
Oh.
Um, yeah, it was lovely, but not so much that it was like all the time. It was just a couple of hours.
I love that. I think it's important to talk to people and be friendly, absolutely, and that's an important thing. But so many people out there who are on their own, they're nervous about this, aren't they? They're nervous
Yeah.
about talking to anybody, whether it's someone in the supermarket, somebody in the bus stop. And it's one of the fears that I have people come to me with. So, James, I want to go and make new friends. I want to socialize, not necessarily to find a partner, but they're just scared of being rejected. What advice do you have for somebody who is just worried about being rejected by someone that they're just being friendly to?
That it's a stranger. So for instance, if you do strike up conversation with someone at the bus stop, they might be quite short. They might have had a really rubbish day.
Yeah.
They might be really stressed out. They might have had some
Mm.
bad news. They're just not in the place to talk. So try not to take it personally. I'm someone
Yeah.
who does take things quite personally, and it's something I've had to learn. Um, I think if you are single and you want to build your confidence with talking to people, go on things like Eventbrite and find out, or meet up. So you could do something, obviously I've spoken about this before, but speed dating is great
Mm.
when you realize how easy it is to start up a conversation with someone and how quickly 4 minutes goes by.
Yeah.
Um, but join a book club, join a painting group, whatever it is you like to do.
Mm.
Things like that I think are always really, really good for people to just start and you realize how easy it is. And there's always going to be people more extroverted than you. There's always going to be people more introverted than you.
Mm.
And then you'll get used to learning each of those personality types.
Absolutely agree. Don't forget, you mentioned people are strangers. You don't know who they are. They're no part of your life. If you go up and say hello to them, make a conversation, if they're not interested, what have you lost? Nothing. They're still a stranger. They're not going to go away and think, like, that's really awful. But I think people in life, since the pandemic in particular, are a bit lonelier and they'd appreciate a little hello, good morning, or a compliment or something like that to do it. So you can make people's lives better by just being a bit more friendly and outgoing. So many people just scowl and look down when they're walking and avoid eye contact. I think then the world needs more of that going on. But you mentioned things like meetup and speed dating, and people, again, they can be nervous to go and do this. So maybe you can go to it and make a new friend, and then you can just go, male or female, go out there and go to events with them. But getting yourself out the door is the first thing, isn't it? That's the
Yeah, I
important
think
thing.
so. And actually, I would always say I'm actually someone who's probably started being able to have conversations with anyone is just because I
Yeah.
love the elderly. So I tend to, if you see someone in the supermarket, offer to help them, or
Yeah.
if you're at the train station, I actually used to volunteer as a befriender for the elderly as well. So I was set up with an older woman who lived alone, but she wanted a bit of company. So like once a week I would go round and have a cup of tea and some cake and chat to her. And that's just a slightly different generation. So if it's not got that sort of romantic intent, or you're worried about being judged by someone who's the same as you in that kind of same situation, go and speak to the elderly. They'll love it. They'll make it easy. They will appreciate you making conversation with them, so that'll make you feel good.
I used to do that myself when I was much younger. I used to go to old people's homes and we go around, just talk to people, play cards with them. And they were so bored out of their brains sitting there and just lying in
Yeah.
the beds or in the armchairs. A little bit of friendly company can really work. I think maybe you've got a neighbor, somebody you haven't spoken to, just say good morning to them, maybe have a cup of tea with them, go and do some chores for them, do nice things. I think if we're on our own or not, we should do more things to support each other. That's what
Yeah.
we need to do. I love that you're a befriender. What a lovely phrase that is, isn't it?
I know, it's so sweet, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Mm.
definitely something I would encourage people to do if you do have that one
Yeah.
hour a week. If there's somebody in your neighborhood who doesn't have the abilities to go out the way you do, go to them, have a cup of tea.
Yeah, they all need it. I think maybe they've lost someone. Maybe they've lost their partner before they're on their own. There's so many forgotten elderly out there in these homes who just, or even the houses who no one really speaks to anymore, and their family don't speak to them, haven't even got family. I think go out there, just do nice stuff. That's what we need to do in the world. That's always been my motto of the Love Machine podcast. Be a nice person, be kind to each other, and then spread the joy. Let's talk about embracing being single again. That's an
Okay.
important thing. So, what do you do? You'll be able to answer this. Someone that is currently single, do you ever? You must feel the need sometimes to have a partner. So how do
Oh,
you deal with that?
absolutely, I do. I would love to meet someone. I'm very lucky that I know I'm in a situation that not a lot of people are in where I'm not particularly maternal. I don't have that kind of need to start a family.
Mm,
I'm very much a never say never because I might meet this person that I believe is in my head. So I
mm,
think it's sort of, I talk a lot about like romanticizing your life, which I guess is actually a form of mindfulness. And the word
mm,
mindfulness, I feel like, it doesn't really connect with me. I'm not really like a yoga meditation type person, but romanticizing just means really just going that extra step forward for
mm.
yourself. So for instance, if you get yourself a coffee machine and you make yourself a cappuccino, make sure you also buy chocolate that you can sprinkle on it. Little things like that. For as long
Yeah,
as I can remember, since my mid-20s, I have bought myself flowers. Like, they used to just be the cheaper little ones, but whatever you have to do, just little
yeah,
things like that that just cheer you up, and that you sort of forget that you don't have someone to do it for you. You can do it for yourself, and it just makes you feel
yeah.
so much more confident and empowered while looking for someone as well.
You've made me want to go and buy a Twix, funnily enough. That's what I like to do sometimes. So I have a coffee, I'm chilling out. It goes back to being a student, and I would go on a Sunday, buy the newspapers, sit down in the art room, and I would get my newspaper out, have a Twix and a coffee. And now I do that again sometimes. I go out and buy a nice Twix. Although Twixes are so small now compared with how they used to be, but put that aside. But I think it's doing nice things for yourself. We don't need someone to complete us in life. We need to be complete as we are. Otherwise, we're never going to find somebody because no one's going to try and fill that gap for you. You have to know your own values, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And, I think especially because of COVID and working from home, we don't make
Mm.
the same effort on ourselves. And don't get me wrong, I have really lazy days. And even if there's a knock at the door, I'm like, oh no, who is that? But generally, like, for instance, working from home, I get up in the morning, not recently because the weather's so terrible in Scotland, but it's almost spring. So I even just
Yeah.
make myself a coffee in a flask, put my favourite playlist on, and just go like what I call a fake commute. And I just walk around for 20, 30 minutes before I start work. And then I come back and I put a bit of makeup on. And it's just that sort of getting yourself in routine and giving yourself like those goals in life and like the little things, like not the big goals, even just like that I'm going to do a 30-minute walk.
I do that myself every day. That's what I do. You talked about mindfulness just there. And in my 200 episodes of the podcast, it's amazing how many times that journaling, mindfulness, meditation comes up. And I really want to do those things after all this time. I really love the idea of doing them. I can do them for 2 minutes, I can do them for a couple of days, but I find it very, very hard. But to me, my mindfulness, my peace of mind, my little joys are pretty much going for a nice long walk, going
Mhm.
out in nature, putting a podcast on. You mentioned podcasts. Lots of sort of supernatural ones going on at the moment. I love Uncanny and things like that. I might as well drop that one into the mix. Do you know Uncanny podcast? Have you heard of it?
No, I don't.
Recommend it. It's fantastic. It's like real life ghost stories and things like that. Really gets you thinking about what's going on in the world. And that's, to me, that is my mindfulness, walking around and gratitude. And you think about all these things. And that's a wonderful thing to do. But it
It
is,
also having things like that mean that, going back to what we just talked about striking up conversation, if
mm,
you put variety in your life like that, then you'll have
yeah,
more things to talk about and it's
yeah.
easier to find something to connect with somebody.
That's true. So many people have nothing going on. They have their work, maybe they go to the gym, they eat, they go to sleep the next day, and it carries on. Because
Mhm.
many people are working from home. I work from home now all the time, 99% of the time. I do miss the face to face. I do it occasionally, and I do the odd live event. Still keep my hand in sometimes doing that. But it is pretty much me just sitting here. And I like to do all the small things and embrace the small things as we go forward, because that's what life's about. It's about living it rather than. And something else you said to me just now, you said that by doing the small things, it makes you more interesting and more attractive. So if you're listening to this and you're on your own, what could you do today to really push yourself and learn a new skill? Maybe book a little trip somewhere, get a new book you want to do, try a new activity. It's not just about meeting new partners, it's about maximizing the life that you've got. And if you're perfectly happy and you're really content, then there's no need to do that. But so many of us get complacent. We eat the same meals every week. Do you tend to do that? Do you tend to eat the same food?
That's so funny you said that because I was actually just thinking about the whole sort of, romanticizing your life and dinner. And I love food. And I think
Yeah,
and people say to me all the time, like my friends who've been in relationships since their early 20s are like, if I lived alone, I would just have like cereal every night for my dinner. Now, don't get me wrong, there might be the odd night when I do just have a bowl of cereal for dinner.
yeah,
But what I really do is I try and cook myself a really, really nice dinner. So whether
mm,
you're naturally a cook or you've got a recipe book or there's or companies out there like I love Simply Cook, but there's things like Gusto and HelloFresh and you're trying new things and you're treating yourself and then you're
mm,
like proud of yourself for making yourself such a nice dinner.
yeah.
Go to Tesco and see what nice wines are in offer and just spend an extra couple of pounds on what you usually do. If it's a Friday, you deserve a really nice wine. You don't have to be with someone to have a nice dinner and a nice glass of wine.
I agree. I love HelloFresh and Gusto. I worked for them before a long time ago. Did some brand stuff with them. Great companies. I often do it. I only do it when I get the half price boxes that come to me because they do. That's great. They send me lots of deals, but that's great because you're doing things you wouldn't normally do. And I really love to cook, whether it's for myself or for my family, and that is part of something that I embrace. If you're just eating the same meals people do, beans on toast or fish and chips, all the same thing, that's very, very boring. Try something new, and that's a great recommendation there. I want to do an affiliate link for that, shouldn't I? Stick that in the
I
podcast,
know.
make some money off that because they offer me these things sometimes. But they're really good. They're fun things to do, and there's so many things that you could do. If maybe you like books, join a book club where you get the book sent to you every month, or you can go to a library and join talking groups and things like that. But we don't know how long we've got on this earth, but you have to embrace it and do the things that you want to do, what makes you happy. My brother, for example, his way of relaxing is to go to a very, very expensive gym and go to the spa. And he can afford to do this. He goes every couple of days, goes to the spa, has a nice chill out in the steam room and in the sauna and the jacuzzi and things like that. That's his way of being happy. And he does that. And that's his way. He thinks, you know what? I work really hard. I ought to go and do that. But if you can't afford to go and join a £200 a month spa, then a simple walk, cooking yourself something a bit different, getting some offers from the supermarket can really make the difference. And trying a new type of wine or new something different. Why, if you drink the same thing every time again, then you know what to expect. I think habit comes into this. It's very easy in life to be comfortable doing the same things over and over again. Sometimes pushing yourself, pushing your limits, pushing your boundaries, and trying new things, that can maybe teach you something you didn't know. And there's so much more that we could be doing out there. What do you think, if you had someone now as a partner, what would that add to your life that's different to what you have now?
What would that add to my life? That's a great question. What would it add to my life? Do you know what? I would never get tired of visiting new places and having nice meals, whether it be at home or out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess there's the financial pressure, but maybe there's things and even though I will try a lot, there's still places I wouldn't think to go to or foods I wouldn't try. And it does get exhausting thinking about it all the time as well. It'd be,
Yeah.
so lovely to have someone, and I've had that in my last relationship. I remember one day when he was just like, he met up with his friends and they were like, we're going to do a couple's weekend away. And he just sent me like this full itinerary
Yeah.
with like, and the restaurant where we went for dinner was booked. And it just felt so lovely to have someone else do it for me. I'm not going to lie, that was lovely.
Yeah. But that's absolutely cool. But these are things you can do for yourself.
Exactly.
Because it was a psychological question there that it's just to sort of throw back that you can be happy on your own. That was why I asked
Yeah.
the question, not to put you on the spot there, Jade. A little bit, but you answered that really well. It wasn't a trick question. It was more the case that we don't need someone to do that. If you want to go and do different things out and book your own itinerary or get a random itinerary off the internet, you can go on ChatGPT and do that. I'm quite sure. It's an extra bonus to have that in your life, but we are enough on our own. And it's knowing that empowers us in life. And I work a lot with clients on that particular thing. And I know that you're amazing. We've spoken so many times. I've known you sort of 4 years now. And I know how great you are. And you've got this inner confidence that a lot of people haven't got. But whether you've got someone or not, it doesn't really matter, does it, to this? It's
It,
knowing
it,
your own
it was
value.
it was a fake it till you make it, the confidence thing. It really
Mm,
was. It was definitely that fake it till you make it.
yeah.
Um, but I read something once, which I was sort of thinking about there, because as you were talking, I was thinking about other things like what can a romantic partner give me?
Mm,
But again, it is all to yourself. So I was thinking, oh well, it's great when someone that you're attracted to also says, oh, you look really nice today.
yeah.
But also, I read something once. It's like speak to yourself how you speak to your best friend.
Mm,
And and it might just be like start reminding yourself, like when you get ready before you go out, just look in the mirror and go, what do I like about my hair today? Or what do I like about my outfit? Or whatever it is. And just those little things, and it becomes a habit. Like you don't have to remind yourself to compliment yourself almost.
yeah.
That sounds
So
really cocky, don't I? And I'm really not, but
that's not cocky because I do that myself. I think I started out years ago, fake it till you make it. I had to do that. It's the best foundation. You've got to start somewhere. And there's coaches out there saying that's terrible advice. You shouldn't fake it till you make it. You're just being a fraud. No, you're not. Because the brain can't tell the difference between real and imagined events. And I tell my clients this all the time. So it's good to say it on my 200th podcast. And it's a very important thing. So if you tell yourself things enough, it will start to believe it. We tell ourselves so much nonsense all the time and stupid stories that aren't true based on childhood experiences that are just meaningless. But now, tell yourself good stuff. Be kind to yourself. And that is the foundation. Do things that you want to do. The only thing you can't get on your own is intimacy with someone else. That's the only thing. But you can fulfill that in other ways, in the temporary other ways that you want to do that. But really, it's not going to that in this podcast. But really, what I mean is you just give yourself a hug and an emotional hug and say these nice things to yourself. And the more inner confidence that you've got, the more attractive that's going to be to other people anyway. And sometimes even things like shyness and insecurities, they can come across as arrogance, just the same way as someone that's overly cocky and overly confident can be anyway. So people can't tell the difference. You may as well just be confident. No one's going to care. Be as confident as you can be. And there's nothing more than that. But be real, be vulnerable. And vulnerability is something I teach my clients all the time as well. We have to be vulnerable in order to get what we want at any part of our life. And that is not being afraid to say yes to things and not being afraid to say no. So many people go and live a life just to please other people. And the good thing is, if you're on your own, you haven't got someone else, you can live the life that you want to live as authentically as you want and embrace all these things that you want to do. So, what's next for you? Do you have any other holidays booked or anything else exciting in your life?
it's so funny because I'm wanting to book another holiday, and I was like, I'll just do a solo holiday again. But
Yeah.
now all my single girlfriends want to come on holiday with me, so I'll probably do two.
Yeah.
Um, I think I'll probably do two holidays. Nothing booked yet.
Where are you looking at? Anywhere nice?
Anywhere, Greece, Spain,
Yeah.
anywhere. I love those places.
Somewhere
And
warm. Somewhere warm.
yeah, and being child free means I can go when everyone's back at school and it's a bit cheaper. So that's why I get more holidays. Yay.
That is the problem of having kids. That's the problem that I've got. I wouldn't say it's a problem, but kids aren't problems in that way. I'm looking at having a holiday myself. I want to book a nice cruise. I love cruises, but in the term time, they're so expensive. Not term time, in the school holidays, they're so expensive. But I'm looking at maybe for next year, something like that. And it's difficult to get babysitters nowadays. So you haven't got to worry about that either. You can do what you want to do in the space that you do. Now, I normally ask people at the end of the podcast if they want to promote anything, if they've got any websites and things like that, but you don't really. So promote your Instagram. What would you like to talk about?
I know, I would just like to tell people to promote themselves and,
Oh.
just everything that was said today. Yeah, fake your confidence, but you have to be confident to be vulnerable as well. And you won't create that intimacy with someone and that foundation and that building on your life without it. So just kind of have a wee think about that and just try something, whether it be go to a takeaway and order something different. Just everyone listening, go and do something different this week. It doesn't have to be this huge, massive, like going on a holiday by yourself is massive. It took me years of living on my own and going to the cinema by myself and sitting in a coffee shop by myself to be able to go on holiday by myself. So don't think that tomorrow you have to feel confident enough to do that. It's little steps.
It is everything small steps. Even if you go for the same walk or the same run, change the route that you go a different direction, try a new road, go up something different, just so you can explore. Life is about exploring. And I love what you just said there, promote yourself. That is what it's about. And that's a great way to end the 200 episode. I want everyone to go out there and promote yourselves. And before we sort of finish off, I want to say anyone that's listening to this or watching, anyone that's listening or watching, please do get in touch. Reach out, give me your feedback, give me your thoughts. What would you like to see on the next 200 episodes of the podcast? Would Jade like to come back for the 300 episodes in 2 years' time? We'll see what's going on. But whatever it is, tell me what you'd like. Please interact. Let me know what you'd like to see. And thank you so much to everyone that's listened to any of my episodes along the way. I am in the top 2% of all podcasts that are out there. Did you know that, Jade?
I didn't. Well done. I was going to congratulate you on 200 anyway, but well done.
Top 2% of all podcasts. And I thought this was a made up nonsense. It's absolutely true. And that's why I've started putting them onto YouTube as well to get this going. So thank you to everybody. And thank you to Jade for joining me and coming out of retirement for one day only. I say that. I will be in touch in 2 years' time for the next 500 episodes, but we'll see what happens. Thank you very much, Jade. Thank you to everybody. Please do click on my website. It's jamespreece.com. If you want to get in touch, book some coaching, get a free book, do what you like, promote yourselves. Jade, thanks so much to talk to you again. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks. See you later. Bye.
Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.